Hey guys, Adam here with a video update for Undermine. We're going to try this format going forward for big updates. First, for those who don't know, Undermine is a game I'm developing with artist Ricardo Chirino. It's a survival horror, but with procedural level generation and roguelike elements. Think Splunky meets Outlast. Today I'm going to be talking about a procedural generation logic. More specifically, about some of the changes we've made to refine it over the past few weeks. So when I first started prototyping Undermine, I had this vision of these sprawling organic levels, with all sorts of random rooms, hallways, and tunnels. How I did this was by generating the levels at pretty much the most granular level. Effectively, a level was made up of a grid of 2x2 unit tiles, each of which was randomized. Here you can see some footage of the old generation. As you can see, it feels very random, perhaps a bit too random. There are hallways and tunnels that go nowhere, props in weird places, and level layouts that vary wildly. It also feels very blocky, with a lot of sharp edges and rough transitions. Lastly, it's unoptimized, lots of small meshes, many of which don't benefit from static batching due to our use of real-time lighting and shadows. These were all things we had planned to address before release, but because the generation was so granular, it would have required a significant time investment to add all of the rules needed to ensure the right tiles respond in the right places. Our generation code was already getting quite complex, and every new rule we added made it harder and harder to maintain. Because of these challenges, we somewhat reluctantly made the decision to move to a module-based level generation approach. This is fairly common in modern games, especially 3D games. It's something I was hoping to avoid in favor of the more organic levels, but after our initial tests it was clear that the pros vastly outweighed the cons. Here you can see the new generation in action. A few things to note. The player always spawns in a safe room, secret rooms are always blocked by rock piles, and individual rooms can have different environments. So for example, a room can be flooded or have environmental hazards like smoke. You'll also notice smoother transitions between rooms, hallways, and tunnels. We think this is one of the biggest pros of the new approach, as we can now handcraft much more elaborate details. For example, something we've been wanting to add is dirt piles along the edges of hallways. With the old generation logic, this would have required either a bunch of special edge tiles to avoid obvious repetition, or extra logic to spawn larger meshes based on a set of rules. Because hallways are now modular, we can easily drop in bigger meshes with no changes to the generation logic. What we lose again is the more organic feeling levels. The layouts are a bit more predictable, but this isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's harder to get lost, and the flow of the levels feels more consistent, which means it's less likely for players to get confused about what to do next. So where do we go from here? Well, for one thing, some of the transitions are still a bit crude. In particular, the tunnel entrances. We also have a number of other visual improvements planned, like those dirt piles along the walls, more clutter, collapsed dead ends, and that kind of stuff. Anyway, that's it for today. Thanks for watching. If you're curious about the game, you can find out more at undermine.info or search Undermine on Steam.